It started on a Thursday. The kind of day that was just forgettable enough for something unforgettable to happen. Mara, a 28-year-old teacher, was on her way to school when she got a call from her younger sister, Leela. The line was shaky. The words were rushed. Leela, Mara, something's wrong. I think someone's watching me. I saw the same car outside 3 days in a row, then static. The call dropped. Mara called back. Straight to voicemail. By 6 p.m., Leela still hadn't returned any calls. Her apartment was locked, lights off, phone on the couch. Her keys and purse were still on the kitchen counter. But Leela was gone. The police chalked it up to a possible voluntary disappearance. No signs of struggle. No witnesses. No forced entry. Mara wasn't buying it. She dug into Leela's life. That's when she found it. A message thread buried in Leela's old phone, between her and someone named G. No last name. No photos. Just cryptic texts. You shouldn't be asking those questions. Curiosity gets people hurt. Don't come alone next time. Mara brought the phone to a private investigator named Jace. A former detective, now working off the books for people who didn't trust the system. He took one look at the thread and said, "Your sister got too close to something." He ran the number through an encrypted lookup. It pinged near the outskirts of the city, an abandoned storage facility long shut down. Too remote. Too quiet. Mara insisted they go. They arrived at midnight. The chain link gate had been cut. Inside, a row of rusted units stretched into darkness. Jace held a flashlight. Mara clutched a tire iron. In Unit 17, they found a chair, ropes, duct tape, and a single Polaroid. Leela. Bound. Blindfolded. Terrified. On the back of the photo, written in thick marker, "Keep digging and she dies." Mara's blood ran cold. Jace looked grim. "This isn't random," he muttered. "This was planned." And from the shadows behind them, click. A camera shutter. Someone was still watching. The room falls into silence as the photo develops. Leela, chained to a wall, eyes wide with terror. The image isn't just a warning. It's a message. We have her. And we're watching you. The investigator shouts, demanding to know who's there, spinning toward the shadows. Nothing. No movement. Just wind and distant sirens. He tells the sister they need to leave, now. They speed away in his car, hearts pounding, minds racing. Back at his apartment, the investigator lays the photo down gently under a bright lamp. He stares at it for a long time before speaking. He says whoever sent this didn't just want to threaten him, they wanted him to know she's still alive. That there's still time. Or maybe that's the cruelest part of the whole thing. The sister says there's something she hadn't thought about. A voicemail from Leela, a week ago. It sounded like a pocket dial at the time, just static and background noise. But now, it might be something more. They play it back. At first, it's nothing. Then faint voices. Footsteps. Muffled conversation. The sister leans in, frowning. She hears it clearly this time. A man's voice, low and hurried, says, "She shouldn't have taken the file." The investigator whispers, "What file?" They don't know. Not yet. But they know where to look. They return to Leela's apartment, careful not to trigger the alarm again. The sister rifles through Leela's laptop. For a while, there's nothing. Just teacher stuff. Lesson plans. School emails. Until she finds a folder. Hidden deep, buried beneath layers of innocuous file names. Inside are videos. Rough footage. Recordings of people talking in a hospital hallway. A doctor. A nurse. Their voices tense, clipped. The doctor says, "The trials aren't FDA cleared. One more death and we'll be finished." The sister covers her mouth. The investigator mutters, "She found something. Something big." They dig deeper. More files. More whispers of wrongdoing. It turns out, Leela had been volunteering at Clearwater Pines Children's Hospital, tutoring kids who were undergoing treatment. But she started noticing something. Kids getting sicker, not better. Parents being kept in the dark. Records that didn't match. And then Leela started filming. One clip shows a child seizing while a nurse rushes in with a syringe. No paperwork. No protocol. Just panic. The investigator says the hospital must be running illegal trials. Using children. No oversight. The sister's hands shake. She says Leela must have planned to go public. She was probably trying to collect enough evidence to force the truth out. The investigator calls an old contact, someone who used to work inside the hospital. A nurse named Olivia. She agrees to meet, but only in person. They meet her at a diner on the edge of town. Olivia looks like she hasn't slept in weeks. She whispers that Leela came to her a few days before she vanished. Told her she was scared. That someone at the hospital had threatened her. Olivia says Leela handed her a flash drive. Told her if anything happened, to get it to someone trustworthy. She reaches into her coat and slides the USB across the table. The sister clutches it like it's a lifeline. But just then, the investigator's phone buzzes. A blocked number. One message. "We warned you." Seconds later, the car they arrived in explodes outside the diner. The blast shatters windows and knocks them off their feet. The sister is dazed. The investigator is bleeding from his temple. Olivia is unconscious, pinned beneath a table. They crawl out. The scene is chaos. Paramedics arrive. Cops swarm the area. The sister refuses treatment. She grips the USB like it's the only thing tethering her to reality. Later, at the hospital, the investigator checks in on Olivia. She's in a coma. The sister says they have no time left. They need to expose this. Now. But the investigator says if they just dump the files, it'll be buried. They need help. Someone who can verify it, trace it back to the source. He makes one last call. They drive to a cabin in the woods, where a man waits with drawn curtains and military paranoia. A former intelligence officer. The kind who has bug detectors built into his walls. He listens to them. Watches the files. Then tells them what they're really dealing with. He says Clearwater Pines is being funded by something called the Blackridge Initiative, a front for military contractors experimenting with human genome editing. They've been using sick kids as a test pool. Collecting data. Pushing boundaries no ethics board would approve. The sister is horrified. The former agent says he traced the GPS metadata embedded in one of Leela's last video files. It leads to a farmhouse off-grid, deep in the woods, unregistered. He looks them in the eye. If she's still alive, she's there. But if you go, don't expect to come back. The sister loads a pistol the investigator hands her. Her hands don't shake this time. She says, if she's alive, I'm bringing her home. And if not, I'll burn the whole thing down. They drive out at dawn. Fog rolls over the fields. The farmhouse rises in the distance, surrounded by silence. Inside that silence, they know, they're not just fighting for Leela. They're fighting for every name buried in those files. And they're not leaving empty-handed. The road disappears behind them as they drive deeper into the forest, every mile pulling them further from civilization, and closer to something far more dangerous. The sister grips the steering wheel, knuckles white. The investigator checks his weapon for the third time. He doesn't say it out loud, but they both know this could end badly. They arrive at the farmhouse just after sunrise. It's old, weather-beaten, surrounded by barbed wire and cameras. But oddly, no movement. No guards. Just silence. The investigator says it feels wrong, like they're being welcomed in. They cut the wire and slip inside through a broken basement window. The basement is damp and dark, filled with old tools and crates. But then they hear it, footsteps. Upstairs. 2 sets. Slow. Pacing. They freeze. Then a voice calls out, "You're late." The sister whispers that she knows that voice. It's the hospital director. Leela had once mentioned him. Drive. Harding. Smiling, polished, dangerous. The investigator motions to move quietly. They sneak up the creaking stairs and peer through a crack in the door. Inside the living room, Dr. Harding sits in an armchair, sipping tea. Across from him, shockingly calm, is someone unexpected, the deputy police chief. The same one who told him early on that Leela's disappearance looked like a voluntary vanishing. The sister gasps quietly. The investigator pulls her back. He whispers that they're in it deep, deeper than they thought. The 2 men are talking freely. The police chief says, "The files are out. They've got the drive." Harding responds, "It doesn't matter. Without Leela, it's just noise. And she won't be talking." Then Harding reaches into a drawer and pulls out a key. He says, "They'll find her eventually. That's the point." The investigator understands. This isn't a kidnapping. It's a trap. A cleanup job. A final phase. Lure them in. Tie up the loose ends. The sister refuses to wait. She kicks open the door, gun raised. The investigator follows. The men don't flinch. Harding actually smiles. He says, "You made it. I was wondering how long it would take." The police chief reaches for his weapon, but the investigator is faster. One clean shot and the chief hits the floor. Harding sighs. He says, "You won't shoot me. You need me." The sister marches forward and puts the gun to his head. She growls, "Where is my sister?" Harding tilts his head. Downstairs, but you won't like what you find. They drag him to the basement. Past the tools. Past the crates. Toward the far wall. There's a metal panel bolted shut. The investigator forces it open with a crowbar. A narrow stairwell descends into a second basement, one that doesn't appear on any blueprints. It's cold. Silent. Almost sterile. They descend slowly. Then they see her. Leela. Chained to a chair in a dimly lit room. Alive. Gaunt. But alert. She stirs as the door opens. Her eyes widen when she sees her sister. She cries, "Get me out of here." They rush in. The investigator frees her. The sister wraps her in a blanket, tears streaming down her face. But then Leela says something strange. "Where's her?" The sister frowns. "Who?" And that's when a voice echoes from behind them. "I was wondering when you'd show up." They turn. A woman steps out of the shadows. In a lab coat. Holding a syringe. It's Olivia, the nurse from the diner. The one who handed him the flash drive. But her face isn't calm and kind anymore. It's cold. Calculating. She says, "The explosion didn't kill me, just gave me cover." The sister is stunned. You helped us." Olivia replies, "I helped guide you here. We needed the rest of the files. And more importantly, we needed to know how much you knew." The investigator pulls his weapon, but Olivia's faster. With a remote in her hand, she triggers the steel door to slam shut behind them. trapping him inside. Leela screams. She's the one who kept me drugged. Every day, she's in charge. Olivia walks slowly around them. She says, the truth is, this isn't about medicine or profit. This is about control. We've been developing behavior protocols, mind mapping, reprogramming. She looks directly at the investigator. You're about to be prototypes. But then, bang. A single gunshot rings out. Leela had picked up the fallen pistol while no one was looking. One shot, straight to Olivia's chest. She collapses. The door unlocks. They run. Back upstairs, Harding is gone. The front door is wide open. The investigator says he must have triggered a silent alarm. Reinforcements are coming. They barely make it back to the car when black SUVs begin roaring down the long dirt road. They drive through the trees. Branches whip the windows. Gunfire chases behind them. Leela, weak but alive, clutches the drive her sister gave back to her. She says, we expose everything, no matter what. They make it to the former intelligence officer's cabin just in time. He triggers a signal blocker. The SUVs don't follow them past the tree line. The sister uploads the files. All of them. To 10 newsrooms, 2 senators, and 1 global whistleblower site. Within 24 hours, it's viral. Within 48, the hospital is raided. Dr. Harding disappears. Wanted by Interpol. The police chief is found dead in a motel room, apparent overdose, but few believe it was suicide. And Olivia. She survives. But she won't talk. Not yet. The sister sits with Leela in the hospital. She says, it's over. But Leela whispers, no. It's only just starting. Because deep in the files are other names. Other children. Other experiments. And somewhere out there, people are still disappearing. Narrator, they saved one. But in a world full of silence, one voice won't be enough.